So I've developed the Houdini version of the ClutterBase now, and it's sort of similar, but the big problem I've had is in the Maya version, we're using the built-in QSQL query model, and we are basically running everything via the built-in PySide/Qt database connections. And in particular, there is the bit where we connect to the SQLite here to generate the database. This, for some reason, doesn't work in Houdini by default, and I'm still trying to find out what the issue is. But it appears that the drivers for all the different databases don't come bundled with Houdini. So what I've had to do, and we see here, this is the actual code, but what you'll see here is a link because I've opened the code directly from Houdini into this editor. So every time I make changes and save it, it just reruns for me. So what I've had to do instead is write everything in pure SQLite 3 instead, which means that you have to generate your own data model using this abstract table model here. And the code is sort of similar. We have to add our own header data here because that's already implemented for us. So you can see I've got ID, name, description, top, side, purse, front, and format. Fact, I have a few issues with spacing as well. That may actually help with a few other things if I had a few more spaces in there. So what this does is it basically looks up the data that's passed in. So basically what I'm going to do is query the database, grab all the data, pass it to this model, which will then populate the table when we do it. So it's very similar as before. This does the image stuff. There's a few other issues with checkboxes appearing and things that I've got workarounds for, so it's still very much work in progress. The rest of the code though is pretty similar, all the layouts and everything else. Apart from now I'm obviously using the SQL Lite rather than the Qt built-in stuff, so you can see I'm fetching the cursor here. This is actually making the mesh or loading it. So I've decided at present I'm just going to load directly to $hip. Later there'll be an option to choose $project or $hip. So we expand that string to get where we are. Then we save the mesh into the hip or the project directory, because Houdini works differently than Maya. The Maya scene contains all the mesh data in Maya, unless we do various other things, but whereas in this case, this Houdini will store them on the file and then load them in when we go. So I open the file, save it into $hip based on the name, then I create a new geometry node, then I rename the node to the name of the mesh that I've just done, then I set the file, create a file node, and then set the name of the file node to be the one that we've just saved here. So to see that in action, if we go to Houdini now, here's my ClutterBase window with no database loaded. Select here and go through, choose the test database, and you can see here it's loaded up as it does in Maya. It looks sort of similar, as you can see. And then I can just double click, and there we go, we just loaded in the teapot, loaded in the stool there, spatula. So you can see it works exactly the same as it does in Maya. So now we've got the ability to sort of load in meshes and do various things based on just what we've done here with the, oops, why am I doing that? So we can share this database and we can sort of move everything around and do what we like quite easily. So it will make life a lot easier when we start to do things. There's the rolling pin there, you can see, and other bits and pieces. So I'll upload that to the repo. Still work in progress, obviously, still needs quite a bit of work just to tidy everything up, but we've got a working prototype now that works with both Maya and Houdini, and we've proved the database works, so I'm quite pleased with that.